Here we are, episode 5 already, moving along. This one is about how to get out of, or how I got out of my really, really close friendships. Like, I had a few very close friends that are really good people, that were always kind. We were really able to talk about so many things with each other. But I knew I wasn't going to go back to meetings. They were the kind of friends that, even though now that I had moved to a new state and they were in a different state, I thought, and I was a little afraid of, that they wanted to save my spirituality and show up at my doorstep to drag me to meeting. I couldn't let that happen. I wasn't even healthy enough physically and emotionally to deal with that kind of pressure because I had already made my mind up that I wasn't going to go back. But now it's so hard to even explain when you're in a cult because you love these people. You have love for them. And yet you know that if you talk a certain way or if you say certain things, that they will see it as that you're really from Satan. And I'm not a bad person. I didn't even do anything. I'm just trying to do what's right, actually. And so it's kind of heartbreaking that your friends are going to view you as that. And so I thought, I don't even know how to get out of this, but it has to happen. I'm going to have to break up with them somehow. And so we had one group chat with 2 of these friends from the previous state, and we were always really encouraging, but also open. There were 2 of the girls that, one was an elder's wife, but she was the one that was had a sense of justice and was there for my kiddo when he got hurt in the congregation. I talked about that in the episode Punched. It's on my channel if you look it up. But she really had such a sense of righteousness. And my other friend, we were just really close and always texting each other. And so I thought, man, I'm going to have to start talking about some of this stuff just so that I can't just fade from them. It's not possible. We're in each other's lives, you know? And so in our group chat, they actually said something about the new thing that Watchtower was building to make the movies. I think it's Ramapo. And they thought that it was so great. And I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of weird, I said, because they actually sent people to actual acting school. I don't know if you heard about that, but it is true. They send witnesses to acting classes with worldly people. However, our kids aren't really supposed to do that in school, take acting classes and be in plays. That's such a double standard. And then I said, it's just kind of weird to me. Like, it's all about like acting and making these productions that are emotionally appealing, when I always felt like we should sit there with Bible in hand and learn to reason with our brain and reason from the scriptures. And now it's like these, propaganda feeling emotional videos. It was just felt so wrong. And they said, oh, so you don't think we should be having these little videos? And I'm like, well, we never used to have. That's like, it's new. And I called it Holywood. Like I said, we have Holywood now, not Hollywood. We have Holywood. And my friend, Jehovah's Witnesses radar goes up immediately. Like they sense it with the littlest nuances. We're so drilled. That's such high control group behavior. We sense when someone's just, getting a little bit away from the group, or just having a little bit of their own thinking. And immediately my elder's wife friend, she says, did you come up with the term Holywood yourself? And the great thing about texting is you don't have to answer that, so I really didn't answer it. And I also, in my pretty long text message to them, started talking about how the previous governing body, the older ones, were against Caleb and Sophia, but then suddenly when they died off, they couldn't wait to go all digital and stuff. And I said to them, is that directed from God or human? To me, that seems so human. One governing body says no and is totally against it. And then the younger version of the governing body, they say yes. And then I talked about the Bethelites that got kicked out and were at our hall. And we had the couple, but we actually also had a single brother who was there for 19 years. So he was there 1 year too short of getting some kind of compensation from Bethel. My understanding is that at 20 years, they get like a stipend that's really small, but at least it's something, or maybe health insurance or something. But anyways, he got kicked out before that could happen. So he wasn't there long enough, so to speak. And he would give comments at the meetings that were kind of funny because he was bitter. He was frustrated. You could tell he wasn't happy to now at 40 live back with his parents, have no real job or anything. And so he would take these little digger comments that he would make. And one of those comments is that jw.org was supposed to be like bringing in so many people when they started and launched the website. And he actually said, well, in all my years at Bethel, we talked about this a lot, and it's really not the success that they were hoping for. And I was floored hearing him say that during the Watchtower study. But then I said to my friends, why shouldn't he speak the truth, though? I feel for him because he can barely cope being let go. That was his entire life. He's now 40, single, and living with mom and dad. No job. He's struggling, and I feel for him. Our field did not need him at all because they acted like they're releasing Bethelites into the field because the great harvest. Our hall was packed. We didn't even have that big of a territory, so no, we didn't need him. And there's big fat zeros on his Social Security for the last 19 years now. So when he gets older, that will suck for him. But then we show a video at the meeting inviting young ones to come to Bethel after we just let so many people go. I don't get it. How does that make sense? And how come it's bad to talk about these things that don't make sense to me? It said in the Watchtower Study Sunday, it's good to ask questions, and so I am. The Pharisees were the ones who didn't allow questions. By the way, and this is what I wrote to them, I absolutely love Jehovah and Jesus, but things with the organization I'm wondering about. I am not leaving Jehovah, even though it feels hard to talk about these things because inside I know you guys are reeling with me, even saying anything, but I don't want you to feel bad. I just see stuff wrong that is wrong and I'm calling it out. You have to compare the Bible truths to what is happening. It is our job. We can't just follow the group and say, this is okay. It is our own personal obligation to use our God-given conscience. And so my friend wrote, I can come and I can watch the kids. Jehovah had an earthly connection always with his people throughout the Bible, is what she wrote. There was a governing body in the beginning of the Christian congregation. So do you think he has one today or not? Where is it? Here's my reply. The governing body in the early Christian congregation met once to discuss the issues at hand. There was not actually a governing body that was set in place in a special building. There was no Bethel home. The apostles did have special authority, but when they were gone, that was it. The word governing body is not in the Bible, and neither are there instructions where it's set up to have a governing body. And they wrote, don't put further burden on the people. That was the instruction. So where are all these extra rules coming from? Like men can't have a beard. Isn't that an extra arbitrary rule? That's not in the Bible. Can you be a Christian and have a beard? I think so. So when we make extra rules and people die, like organ transplants used to be viewed as cannibalism, and then we change the rules, that is very human. So people died because they didn't accept the organ transplant. I don't think the Holy Spirit gives us wrong instructions and then changes it. I think where the Bible isn't clear, it needs to be up to people's conscience always. We don't need supplementary rules, which is what's written in the Bible. Do not add rules like the Pharisees. Also, it says to make the load light. Jesus' load is light. Having all these rules is not a light load. When your brother has No Shave November at work and they do it for charity, why can't he have a beard? We can't even prove it with the scriptures. It doesn't make any sense. When we say, well, Jehovah's Witnesses don't have beards, It's culture, not scripture. Who do we follow? Men or Jesus? And I talked about this whole beard thing with her brother in a previous episode because it was a huge deal in their family. And her brother was upset about it. And me too. I just didn't understand it. So, all right. So the elder's wife writes back. Okay, let's say he doesn't have an organization. Where are we supposed to meet together according to Hebrews? Why would Jesus say he would appoint someone to give us spiritual food? He doesn't talk to me. Does he to you or anyone you know? Where are we supposed to get it? Why did he start the Christian congregation? So now we just do it solo? Jesus picked Judas to help him in the congregation. I'm sure people back then had their faith shaken when he turned. He has imperfect people to work with. And then the other sister writes, seems like these are all doubts and concerns that can only be addressed by the organization. Don't drown in negativity. Ask your questions. Imperfections exist in all of us and in the organization, but no one else I know is trying to do it Jehovah's way. We all see ways that things can be improved, but it all is focused on how someone else is not doing things perfectly. Then what type of person will I become? Will I be happy? Will I be imitating my Father Jehovah? I want to see people in things like he does. He recognizes their flaws, but he focuses on their positive qualities and molds those humble folks into people that can do his will. I cannot handle all this negativity. It doesn't build up, it tears down. And I wrote, I'm sorry, I don't feel like I'm being negative at all. I don't feel negative, I'm just talking. I'm sorry it makes you feel that way. I also don't feel like I'm tearing down, I'm discussing. The disciples came to Jesus and asked and discussed and talked things out. It's healthy because we have to use our powers of reason. But I am sorry that it made you feel this way. And then she writes back, when I was down, you would always be so encouraging to me. And then the other sister writes, our friend always says things so nicely. I'm not trying to be rude, and it's hard with the text to convey how I'm talking. I'm all about getting to the root of problems, and I love you. You've been through so much, and your mom has too. You would see flaws, but you would focus on beautiful qualities that others missed. So what is up now? Why does it seem like negativity is all around? And then she continues to say, I want my BFF back here so badly. What can we do to cheer you up? And the other sister says, I just can't even imagine all you've had to deal with. We do love you so much. And I wrote back, I'm not sad. It's okay, but thank you. And then the other sister says, but you are mad, and I can tell. You can't trust people, and rightly so after what you've dealt with. So then I finally write back to her all the questions that she said earlier. And I'm sure at this point, those poor girls are like reeling inside. I mean, their little apostate flags are going off in every direction, like warning, 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 because that is how we're triggered. That's how we're built. And I am not judging them for this. We were all three of us born into this cult. We're all three since birth drilled to recognize the signs when someone's straying from the flock. And like we're drilled that these questions are not allowed. And so I can't fault them for that. I just feel like they're good people, but they're blind right now. And maybe one day they'll wake up and then I'll have my friends back. And maybe they won't, and then I won't. But so here it goes. So I wrote back to them. Where did the first Christians meet? In homes. Small Bible study groups. Older brothers took the lead. Don't forget Jesus said, you are all brothers. They constantly fought who is the greatest among them. I meant the disciples. We act like the governing body is the greatest. They are brothers like we are all brothers. Do not follow men. And yes, Jesus does talk to you. You get your instruction from the Bible. He does not talk to the governing body any other way he talks to all of us. They do not get special instructions directly from Jesus. In 2007, the Watchtower I sent you earlier said that the governing body is neither inspired nor infallible. The problem I have is with the elite. I can't stand it. I have always loved you both so much for being kind Christians. I love that about you and your families. You guys really are kind, like we're all supposed to be. We are all brothers. But some love this being part of something special and their little special groups and parties. Everyone should be invited. This last year, all I did was cry at meetings, all the time. Poor kids, must have been hard on them. Like we would get to the meeting, I cry, all the time. We were invited to a bunch of stuff that was only for pioneers and elders. Like that seems so wrong to me. We are all brothers. It is just like the Pharisees. So what did the early Christians do when the apostasy started in the congregation? And I did like the shrugging emoji. I really don't know. In 1 John, it says one of the apostates in the congregation kicked a few brothers out, didn't even let them into the congregation. What did they do? Where did they go? No clue. I don't have a answer. Jesus scolded the Pharisees. It wasn't negativity. He couldn't stand their hypocrisy. Plus, we are hypocrites too when we're part of the United Nations for 10 years as an NGO. By the way, this was like a huge thing for my mom and me because how much did the J-Dubs vilify the United Nations? To find out, and I truly couldn't even believe it at first. I had to do extensive research. I was at the point where I almost wrote to the United Nations themselves, but then was able to prove to myself through so much evidence that yes, Jehovah's Witnesses were a part of the United Nations. It blew my mind. So I wrote they were a part as an NGO, and then they keep it as secret and they talk about the UN as the wild beast. But we're actually members. I think that's an incredible thing, and then hiding it. If we made a mistake with that, talk about it. Because like later on, like they're not currently a member, but they were. But they hide it. They just sweep it under the rug. You got to own it at least, you know. Say, whoops, we shouldn't have done that big mistake. That would be better, but hiding things, I don't like it. I'm so sorry, I know I make you incredibly uncomfortable. I don't want that, and I'll stop now. I'm airing my grievances. I'm not sad or I feel close to Jehovah. I feel calm. I'm sorry, though, for making you feel uncomfortable. I do want you both to know that I truly think highly of you. You're good people, and I love you. My friend wrote back, I just worry about where you're getting all of your information. If you're researching and thinking this, that's one thing. The phrases and the way you're talking sounds straight up from apostate websites. Side note, how would you know that? Please don't feed your mind on those things. They have no alternative to offer except freedom. That's me adding that. They just pick and fill our minds with doubts, aka like that's really actually critical thinking, right? I'm sorry you don't feel Jehovah is directing his people through the faithful slave. Even though it's not perfect, it is what he's using today. Yes, they have changed things through the years. No smoking, no Christmas, other things, once they realized they were not right. The light gets brighter and things have changed, especially with technology. Is it right or wrong? It doesn't really matter. Wow, that's actually like... It doesn't really matter. Yeah, it does matter. Wow. Okay. I love you, girlie. I do think that if this stuff continues to bother you, you gotta go to the source to find your answers. Jesus says the elders are in his hands, so he knows if that tool needs refinement. All right, so I wrote. So I gotta tell you what happened. It was probably last spring. I don't remember. One of Mom's way old friends sent an email to us because he didn't have her email anymore. And we read it. I was so mad at what he wrote. I was furious. He wrote all this stuff, and we said lies. And Mom read it and replied, we cannot be friends anymore, hardcore. And she left it at that. A few months later, someone else said something to me, and it was one of the things that this brother had written about in the email. And I Googled it in the news, and it was all over. And I was kind of floored because it was true. We hide things, and we're being lied to. Aren't whistleblowers important? I don't know what to say, but this is not okay. What you go through when you find out it's not a lie, It's physically ill-making. I was sick. I felt so hurt and betrayed. I just couldn't even believe it. And problems is, this is the actual news. It's okay if you believe they lie, but we're a part of the UN. It's a fact. I wish it wasn't true, but it is the news. It's not fake news. It is actual news. That's what reporters do. They dig. And also we said the spiritual inspection was in 1918 when we still did celebrate Christmas for a few years. So I think what I'm meaning with that is we said our spiritual inspection was in 1918. Yeah, but Jehovah's Witnesses still celebrated Christmas. So I guess that inspection failed. Like, just threw that little side nugget in. So then I linked videos to The Guardian. And The Guardian is a very reputable newspaper. And they had articles, Jehovah's Witnesses linked to the UN queried. Hypocrite Jehovah's Witnesses abandoned secret link with the UN. Oh my gosh. And I wrote, I know you guys feel scared, sad, everything. I know it, and I felt the same way with our friend. And I'm really sorry I make you feel that way. Mom told him we can't be friends anymore, and I'm sure somewhere you feel the same way about me. And we tag people immediately as apostate, bad, association, weak, or whatnot. And I don't blame you at all. I did that too, and we are trained to do that. It's just so hard because I feel like I can't close my eyes to things and just label them lies. That's slander when it's true. It starts with all the abuse victims that were treated so wrong they had to sue. It's cold. But I know my stance on this hurts friendships. I do want you to know I love the Bible, I love Jehovah, I love Jesus, and I'm a moral person and I always will be. I love Bible standards and I'm not changing. I'm the same. I love the truth and I have to stand up for what is actual truth and what is right. And it's actually really hard sometimes because you do feel alone. All right. So my friend wrote, but if someone told you that I'd been lying to you for years, would you go to a third party to find out the truth or would you go to me? Reporters can only make money on good stories. If they get the details wrong, they will sometimes print a retraction, but as one line on a page 13 and the big story took up the whole front page. I do think it's interesting that they had this tie, and I would like to understand why they did. We can speculate, and folks can use this as a vehicle for doubt and sowing distrust. We've not gone to the source. And so my other friend wrote like how the media is like the whole world is lying in Satan's control, including the media. And she said, things have happened that were wrong and people have been hurt. We hear you. We're not stupid. There are bad elders. However, I still believe this is his organization. The early Christians did start out in homes, but it grew to be congregations that had traveling overseers that would visit. Jehovah is a God of order. And then she writes, so are you and your mom talking with a lot of Exj dubs now? Some that were your friends from years ago? Okay, so then I tell her, yes, please do go to the sword. Write to Bethel and ask them about it. I would love to hear it. And then she replies, oh, so at first she shut him down. And so you're talking with him now? And so, not really, we're not answering each other's questions at this point. This is like in the beginning stages of me waking up, like really in the beginning. And where you have to kind of reassure them that you're not like from Satan and you're not an apostate. And I wrote to her, by the way, I don't like apostates. I don't like people who fall away from Jehovah, but people who have been hurt, that's sad and different. And I stand with them. And she goes, I asked about Exj dubs. What have you been reading or talking to? It's just not the news where you're finding all of these problems. Wow, are you the KGB? Because, the one friend said, are you talking with Exj dubs? And I'm like, wow, are you the KGB? And she replied, LOL, yes. When I feel my friends in harm's way and all alone, yes. I'm going to fight for you. You can't leave without a fight. You're avoiding some things. And then my other friend goes, I'm a lover, she's a fighter. We're a good team, LOL. And then the other one goes, a true friend tells you what you need to hear, not always what you want. Just make sure who you know you're talking against. And then they go into this whole Korah and all that, which that is a very powerful drama, how they show it, because it really shows like if you're trying to do things your own way, and it's like that picture play in your mind where they're all like falling to the abyss. I totally get it. But when you find out that the organization is lying, that all doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, they painted this picture for standing against Moses and Jehovah and all that. But okay, so they send me an article, who's leading God's people today. Please, please, on my knees, please read this with an open mind and with your Bible. We love you so much. Okay, I totally get that someone shared info that rocked your world, but what alternative are they providing? I just see questions and doubts. You've kept a distance. If you've got doubts, let's work through them. Let's take them one at a time. And sending me another article. So here's me. You keep talking about apostates to me. You even searched for apostates and sent me those articles. An apostate is someone who falls away from Jehovah, and I'm not that at all. It's a bit offending. What do I have to do with apostates at all? And you keep telling me it sounds just like apostates. Why do you know what they say? I don't get it. I'm talking about us, not them. I'm talking about what we do and what we hide, which are half-truths. We're studying the Revelation book several times, all the while being an NGO member of the UN. That doesn't make sense to me. Does that make sense to you? I am not an apostle. Like, what the heck? I feel like this is offending. And I honestly was at the time like really still believing in Jehovah. I just wanted to try to separate the organization from God and the Bible. I want truth. It's hard to do that clearly when you get attacked as an apostate. So where she says, let's go and work through these doubts, which is kind of what I was doing, right? And so she goes like, let's take them one at a time. And I wrote, well, it's hard to do that clearly when you get attacked as an apostate right away. That's why you can't say anything. If you do, it's an immediate attack, and that's weird. Why is it such a big deal? That's weird to be so scared to talk. And she said, I think you've been reading their literature, and that's why I looked it up. And then I said, no one came along and told me negative thoughts. There's crappy facts we have to deal with. Millions of dollars of lawsuits from donation money, and that's a problem. And she goes, where are you getting all of your questions, all of these news articles? And I wrote, even my coworkers heard it on the news about all the abuse stuff. I mean, it's scathing. 2 are Catholic, so they have to deal with theirs. And we were open to talk about that. Oh my God, we have it too. I was ashamed. Oh my God, how is this even happening? We always talk about the Catholic Church. And it was really true, even waking up with like talking to my mom. I said, here we were just trashing the Catholic Church and their child molestation charges, and how hypocritical when we have it even worse. Because per capita, Jehovah's Witnesses are a small group, and we have it even worse. So I wrote, doesn't it make you sad that we have all this abuse stuff and losing lawsuits and settling left and right? It makes me so sad. I never expected this to happen with us, ever. It breaks my heart. And the weird thing, yet another sister who has an abuse story in her own family. She too had a nephew who was abused. And in their case, again, the abuser is a servant now. Again, I mean, this is the third time I'm telling, like, this third story. Like, I feel like there's so many connections with abuse from so many different people that I knew. So she wrote, and that's why she knew that it was true. She goes, I Googled your cognitive dissonance, and a lot of apostate stuff was there associated with that word, because I had mentioned like having cognitive dissonance. I never would think that that's an apostate word. I used it for Troy all the time. My husband cheats on me / but he loves me equals cognitive dissonance. Now I Google that too. I got to Google that too. And so I Googled cognitive dissonance and I wrote, I don't see anything apostate, just psychology. And she wrote, well, I added J-dub on it and there is a bunch. I had a hunch with some of the reasoning you were using. It seemed twisted to me. I forgot you were in therapy a while and probably heard it there. No, I'm not looking at apostate things. I'm sorry if you're not. You're smart enough to research yourself. You've just had so many subjects you've brought up, I had a hunch. I'm sorry if you haven't read or talked to anyone that goes against Jehovah and is in any organization that he's behind. Yes, sex abuse is horrible and disgusting, and Jehovah and his organization are against it. We don't know all the facts of these cases that are getting settled. For the most part, the organization is very transparent. They have outlined wherever they changed thinking on this. They blah, blah, blah. And then, while she is ranting about how the organization is transparent on child abuse, I'm not kidding you guys. I get an alert on my phone. Suspicious sign-in attempt prevented. Google prevented someone who knows your password from signing into your account. If this wasn't you, you should change your password immediately. It says the location. The location is my friend's house, the elder's wife. And a couple months before this, her IT husband had helped me with my email with something, so I had given him my password, but I was still actually not even PMO at the time or anything. And so I had tried to change my password, and it actually sent me a suspicious sign-in attempt. I sent her the screenshot and I go, hello, are you trying to log into my email right now? And she goes, well, I did not do anything. I told my husband what was going on today, and he was in the other room and said he was just scrolling through his phone, and he tapped on your email and it automatically tried to log in, but he didn't. He was not trying to hack you. I think he was going to write you an email. And I wrote, okay, you guys, listen for peace's sake. I love Jehovah, you love Jehovah, we both do. It's what matters. It's all good. Jehovah reads hearts. And they go, and you have a good heart. I hate that you have all this doubt and uncertainty. And I said, don't worry, I have no doubts at all in my love for Jehovah. That's what matters. Our other poor friend's probably having a heart attack. I love the both of you. And then she wrote back, the other friend, I was sleeping. I'm not reading any of this because it would give me anxiety. I don't think anyone doubts that we love Jehovah. Based some of the discussion, it seems that there's great distrust in his earthly organization. Would that be a fair statement? And then they're like, you need to write to Bethel. And I'm like, why don't you write to Bethel? Ask your dad, ask the elders, write to Bethel. I'm all for it. And you know what? You know why they didn't? Because they're all scared to write to Bethel. When you write Bethel, Bethel will send your letter back to your local congregation, to your elders, and you're going to be labeled an apostate right away. And that's why I kept saying to them, you guys, write to Bethel, write them about the UN, please do, because they would be marked so fast as an apostate in the congregation, that would really help them wake up. But let's just take a minute here. I ask her, are you the KGB? She says yes. I ask her, are you hacking in my email? And they totally were. I bet you they were trying to look through my email to find apostate stuff. I mean, just think about that. Is this not some Scientology, insane, haunting and persecuting you kind of stuff? I mean, I know she's really trying, in all honesty, she's trying to save my soul from dying. That's how she views this. But it's so crazy to me. And actually, it kind of messed my email up for months. I had to hand letter write Google a letter to get back into my email because there's so much stress going on at this time, and I had to change my password. Well, I couldn't remember the password, and then the two-factor authentication wasn't working right, so I was locked out for months from my email, which was also my work email. So, but stress can cause so much memory trouble, which I still have. I have the worst memory from all the stuff that goes on, but this was really just really, really crazy. I'm just we're kind of getting to the end because we're not getting anywhere and they don't want to hear this stuff. And my friend, she writes to me, the sweet one, the one that didn't hack into the email. She's like, I love you so much, but I feel like Eve listening to the snake and I have to go away and not listen to the snake, which basically she's calling me a snake. And I cried. These were my friends. It was so hurtful. And throughout the years, we helped each other and were there for each other through thick and thin mutually. So it was really, really hard to know, oh my gosh, we're like losing each other. And it's heartbreaking. And it was a breakup. But it is what it is. What can you do? So in the next episode, I will continue my story because we're still not out of this. This is a whole process. Moving time. Moving time is going to be the next episode. Also, I want to apologize for the previous episode to this one. It got cut off at the end. I mean, there's only a few more seconds left, but I don't know what happened. So I'm sorry for that.